Welcome to How to Make a Tech Pack Like a Pro. Grab your coffee, pick up your favorite pen, and let's get started. So, you are ready to start your fashion brand? And proper tech packs are a must. But first things first, can I get away with a quick tech pack? The answer is absolutely not. Your tech pack isn't simply a blueprint with instructions. It protects your time and money investment. When you put all the details on paper, you avoid costly mistakes. It also shows your contractor that you are a professional and serious about your brand, and that you value their time as well. A proper tech pack is your tool to get accurate pricing from contractors. A reputable factory will break down the steps to complete your garment, down to each seam, and how many minutes and thread use it takes to sew each. So, a proper tech pack is a must to avoid surprises on costs later in the process. You don't have to sign up for my Masterclass if you don't wish to, but please avoid tutorials that promote tech packs the easy way or in 5 minutes. That does not exist in the real world, and using a quick tech pack is gambling with your time and money. Here is my best advice to you. As a startup brand, you have no leverage, and contractors don't really make money with development. Taking on your project is them investing in you as well, so always be kind and professional. Let's begin. This tutorial follows my 17-page template. If you'd like to purchase it, just click the link below. The demo pages I will be using are included in all the sets. You may also save on bundles and get the Fashion Forms templates. There is a lot of info to unpack, so remember you can slow down the playback speed on your video settings, pause and replay as needed. If you are only printing on blanks, you may skip to the pages listed here. Cover page. Here's the blank template. Note that I've split the sections in different colors to make it easier to navigate. Now take a moment to review the completed sample version. You can begin by inserting your logo at the top of the page in the orange section. To make your life easier, I recommend pausing and copying and pasting it on all the pages, and then saving the file as your blank tech pack. Style info. For this portion of the page, if you are using my Excel template, the file is formatted to autofill on all the other page headers. So it is very important that you fill it out correctly, or the error will show up on all pages. And don't forget to edit this section only on the cover page, as doing it on any other will automatically unlink the cell. Start by adding the date, style number, an alphanumeric code, that's the garment's internal ID, a style name of your choice, that's easy for your customers to recognize, and the description, that's a quick summary of the key elements of your style. Season, and the delivery within that season. Beyond your classic seasons, you'll find that when it comes to the fashion calendar, there can be additional collections, such as resort, holiday, pre-spring, etc. And within the season, the collection might be split in subgroups, usually in different colorways, that ship at different times. List only the main fabric, unless there is an equal use of 2 fabrics. Then create short abbreviation of both. The division refers to a category usually assigned first by gender or target customer, as in newborn. There are also subcategories in division, for example, women's accessories. Even if you are only producing only one division and it sounds redundant, do enter this info to avoid any potential confusion with contractors. The size range should be based on evaluating customer preference, how your fabric affects fit, and last but not least, how many sizes you can afford to produce. And don't forget your name if you are the designer. The stage cell refers to the step in the process you are in. At the very beginning, you might be shopping around contractors, so type costing. I like adding this line to the notes as well, to ensure it's clear there is no commitment to proceeding with production yet. Once you choose a shop that you'd like to work with, update it to Proto. As you progress to fittings, you will continue to update it to the next stages, all the way to production. Don't forget to add your sample size and the colorway once you've selected your colors. Contractor's info. Unless you've already have chosen a full package contractor, add your vendors as you know. Meanwhile, feel free to write to be determined. If you are working with a full package contractor, use factory. Some companies prefer not disclosing all of their vendors and use internal codes instead. It is up to you how you prefer working. Let's finish this section by adding the flat sketch of your design. Don't forget to add a thumbnail version to the top right corner of every page. I highly recommend creating a low-resolution version. You can use a small screenshot to prevent the file from becoming excessively heavy. Your flat sketch or technical drawing should match your design idea not only on every detail down to any visible stitching, but also represent the proportions as closely as possible. To make sketching flats a breeze, I've created a library of basic fits that I can use as base. Not only they give me consistency in the drawing style, but in the size of the flats. And that helps a ton when putting together your line sheets and catalogs. You can purchase my Flats Fits library on my site, along with stitch brushes, textures, and trims for both Adobe Illustrator and Procreate. Sketch page. It can also be referred as design card. Here's the blank template. Now take a moment to review the completed sample version. Let's begin. The style info should already be in place, as it is linked to the header on the cover page, so remember to always go back to it if you need to edit. If you haven't done it yet, add your logo and thumbnail flat. Let's now work on the large section of the page, where you'll insert your sketch and inspiration images. You should also list design instructions, also referred to as callouts. The first step is to insert a front and back view of the garment. This can be a stylized fashion sketch or a technical flat, as I did here. Next, break down all the details that make the design of the garment. It includes pattern details such as that I want the pockets to be patch pockets with a flap, the center front to have a placket, and the gathering at the waistband seam to be light. It also shows sewing details that make the style of the garment. In this case, I noted that I'd like keyhole buttonholes and the detail on the waistband self pieces. You should also list fabric placement. For this style, there is the self, which is the main fabric, the contrast jersey on the collar and pockets, the rib on the waistband and cuffs, and the lining. You can include measurements on this page. However, all relevant measurements should also go on the spec sheet. As I mentioned earlier, on the sketch page you may use a stylized sketch as well. I recommend you do so, especially if you don't have inspiration images. This gives the pattern maker a better idea of the silhouette and proportions you are going for. Luckily, no one will ever ask that you have expert drawing skills. You can absolutely use fashion figures templates to simplify and speed up the process. I have sets for every budget on my site in printable PDF, Adobe Illustrator, and Procreate file formats. If you rather just use the technical flat sketch, be sure to include inspiration images. I like keeping a clean first page with only the main written instructions, and then add my reference photos to a separate page, as I did here. Remember, the mindset when putting together your design card is not to think of you and show your ideas. Keep the brainstorming to your sketchbook. Design cards are for the pattern maker and team to understand what's often referred to as design intent. Keep it simple and only add clear and to the point instructions. In order to create my sketch and instructions, I use Adobe Illustrator. If you do not know how to use Illustrator or Procreate, do not worry. You can absolutely create your sketches and technical flats by hand, take a photo of them with your phone, and insert them into the page. And you can add your notes using the Insert Text tool within Excel. Regardless of method, be sure that your drawing shows 100% of the details on your design. Construction page. Here's the blank template. Now take a moment to review the completed sample version. Let's begin. Your header with the style info, logo, and thumbnail flat should already be in place by now. Let's begin with the large portion of the page, where we will add our technical sketch, construction instructions, and reference images. The first step is to insert a front and back view of the garment. Since this page is meant to convey construction details, 99% of the time you will see a technical flat and not a stylized fashion illustration. There is no rule that prohibits you from using a stylized fashion sketch here, but I do not recommend it. Regardless of the type of sketch you use, it is key that the sewing and construction details are accurately shown. This includes visible sewing instructions, such as top stitching and other decorative stitching details, and instructions for the less noticeable construction steps, which includes join seams and finishing details. On my demo sample, note that I am asking the factory to attach the collar sandwiched into the collar band, that I would like an all-around stitch line 1/8 inch from the edge, and that I want the stitch size for that line to be 10 to 12 stitches per inch. And don't forget to include inner construction details. If you are a newbie, you can discuss all of this with your pattern maker or hire a tech designer for help. If you are ready to learn the process yourself, sign up for my Tech Packs Masterclass, where I will teach you how I break down the steps, identify types of seams, and proper lingo. At the end of the course, you'll be able to confidently create your own tech pack, communicate your ideas with team members and contractors, and most importantly, supervise their work, and all for less than the cost of one professional tech pack. The construction page is one of the key pages on the tech pack. It isn't simple sewing notes, but the engineering of the garment. The sketch and instructions on this page must exactly match the information on the design card, pattern page, bill of materials, and all other notes that relate to the garment itself. If you are not versed in pattern making, construction, and production steps, leave this page to the pros. Work with your pattern makers and hire a freelance tech designer to help you. Discuss the options that best suit design intent, fabric, garment functionality, production costs, and target retail price. Saving on working with a professional very likely will cost you more later. Inefficient fabric consumption and higher manufacturing costs will result in reduced profit margins, a higher retail price, and sell-through. Last but not least, do not get frustrated and remember to learn as much as possible as you go through the process. I still learn new tips from my colleagues. Always work as a team player with everyone involved. Even if you are paying their invoices, build a reputation in the business as a respectful and pleasant to work with designer. When you are in a crunch and need work done faster than usual, having a solid relationship with your vendors will put you at the top of their list. Labels and hang tags page. Here's the blank template. Now take a moment to review the completed sample version. Let's begin. Your header with the style info, logo, and thumbnail flat should already be in place by now. Let's get to the main portion of the page, where we will add our drawings, instructions, and callouts. The way I organize this page varies, and you are certainly welcome to use more than one page if your branding has more items. What I do keep consistent is on the way I organize the pages, starting with the main label and size tab together, next the care and factory labels together, and the hang tags for last. Provide visuals of the labels and tags, placement on the garment, and clear instructions on how they should be attached. Remember, this is your branding. Think this step through so that your product looks fantastic on the hanger at a shop, as well as if shipped in the mail. Don't forget country of manufacture, fabric content, and care labels, as well as your factory and PO labels if you are using them. Placement for these tends to be pretty standard on the side seam of the garment. Country of manufacture and care labels are also required by law. Always check for regulations for placement on the garment and ensure all information is accurate. Especially if you are manufacturing overseas, be sure to discuss all customs requirements with your contractor's agent to ensure you are in compliance. Sendouts page. Here's the blank template. Now take a moment to review the completed sample version. Let's begin. Your header with the style info, logo, and thumbnail flat should already be in place by now. Let's begin with the large portion of the page. Here we will add our drawing, instructions, and callouts. This tech pack shows an example of screen printing instructions. But send-outs include any treatment you add to your garment that is separate from the main sewing instructions. They are referred to as send-outs because most of the time, sewing shops do not specialize in the specific technique and they need to collaborate with other contractors. Examples of other send-outs are embroidery, pleating, adding eyelets, beading, etc. Whatever you choose to apply, be sure to edit the page title accordingly. Then add your sketch with placement instructions, dimensions, and colorway. Always give Pantone colors. If you don't have them, provide them with color swatches and ask them to help you match to a Pantone number. Most contractors have their books. Before creating this page, discuss with your contractor at which step of the manufacturing process it is best to apply their step for production efficiency. Sometimes it is necessary to apply a treatment directly on the fabric before sewing, or on the cut pieces. It all depends on a combination of your design and their machines. Washing and dyeing instructions. Here's the blank template. Now take a moment to review the completed sample version. Let's begin. Your header with the style info, logo, and thumbnail flat should already be in place by now. Let's start with the main portion of the page. On the top portion, you will be checking the box that corresponds to the type of test material you are giving the contractor. The following section has an extensive list of the most common types of treatments available at laundry and dye houses. The bottom section is for added notes, such as Pantone codes, color chips, images, or even attaching reference fabric swatches. On my sample tech pack, you can see that I've given my dye house a full garment, that I am in the sampling stage and have not approved the color for production yet, that I would like to do a pigment dye treatment on vintage black color with fabric softener added, that I am giving them a reference swatch for the vintage black look and feel, and that I am planning of adding 2 more colors to my collection. If, for example, you are working with denim, you'll probably need extra space for your reference images. Feel free to copy and paste one of the pages that have a large blank area. Don't forget to edit the tile accordingly. Besides the visuals, provide them with a reference fabric sample, not for color but for hand and feel. This means how you'd like the garment to feel when touched. If you don't have a sample, ask them to see their sample library and try to find one. Ask them to break down the processes that will be applied to achieve that result and the cost of each step. And remember to promptly check the appropriate boxes for those processes on the tech pack. And don't forget to do a shrinkage test. If you think the contractors will add this step to the process, you are wrong. You must ask and sometimes pay for it separately. Garment dye and wash is one of the most fun yet underused tool for a lot of new designers. It's a fantastic way to make your designs unique to your brand. If you'd like to learn more, sign up for my Tech Packs Masterclass, where I provide a deeper dive into this section. I will teach you the processes available in detail and how to work with your contractor like a pro. Bill of materials. Let's begin. Here's the blank template. Now take a moment to review the completed sample version. Let's begin. Your header with the style info, logo, and thumbnail flat should already be in place by now. Let's go over to the main portion of the page. Although it's designed to be pretty self-explanatory, let's do a quick recap of the different sections and where to get the information for each. The BOM lists every single item that's included in the final product shipped to the customers. The top part applies to all, starting with what kind of item it is, followed by the supplier's item code as found on their invoice, a description, size and color, unit of measure, quantity, also referred to as consumption, the supplier's name, and on the last column, the specific placement on the garment and at which step of the process it is applied or utilized. For this section, gather the basic materials list and placement from the instructions on your design card or sketch page. Then check the pattern card for on any inner construction materials she or he might have added, as well as consumption. The consumption or yield should be listed at the bottom of the pattern card. If you have trouble identifying the operation, ask your pattern maker for help. On the thread section, most factories will use their own thread and add the cost to their price, as shown on the sample tech pack. In that case, simply input factory source. However, it's not always best to trust the color and quality of their choice. Cheap thread breaks easily, so inquiring about it might seem like going overboard, but it is not. I tend to choose my own colors, purchase the thread, and ship it to them when manufacturing domestically. In that case, you'd ask them to list the machines they will be using and how many spools are needed to complete your estimated production number. Then divide the total amount of thread by the quantity to be produced to get your ballpark consumption. Last but not least, add the labels, tags, and packaging details. I will not bore you with a step-by-step, since this section is pretty self-explanatory. Once again, if you are working with a factory that will source your packaging materials, such as polybags and stickers, write factory or factory source. Once you are ready to cut production, ask for the marker fabric yields and update your consumption on the quantity page. Be diligent filling out and updating the BOM. It is the basis for your final cost sheet. It determines not only your profit margin, but also your wholesale and retail prices, affecting your sell-through. A $5 error in costing will result in an extra $10 added to your wholesale price, and a ballpark $24 to your retail. Need a fantastic and accurate cost sheet? Check out my template. Not only it's formatted to calculate individual costs, but it also gives you a range of suggested wholesale and retail prices based on different margins. It also includes a filled-out demo to help you fill it out correctly and understanding the process. Fabric page. Here's the blank template. Now take a moment to review the completed sample version. Let's begin. Your header with the style info, logo, and thumbnail flat should already be in place by now. Let's begin with the main portion of the page. It is split in 3 sections: fabric info, testing results, and buying details. The fabric info section starts with type, which refers to the use on the garment, meaning if it's the self, contrast, etc. You can copy this info from the pattern card and create a new page on this section for each fabric. Now, add the vendor code, description, and content as it shows on your purchase order confirmation, as well as the country of origin. The reason why where the fabric is made is important is in case you are importing. Some countries have fiber content quotas, so be sure to check the latest regulations with the supplier. This section refers to how the fabric is made to look the way it does. It is too technical for this video, so I will not go into the details. You can ask your vendor for this info, and yes, it's also kind of important. The next section if needed if you are doing custom colors. Dye lot MOQ refers to their minimum order quantity required to do your custom color. Lead time is how long the process takes. And lab dip TA means how long it will take for them to provide you with the test color swatches for your approval. If you are doing washing or dyeing after you purchase the fabric, here you'll add your average shrinkage results from your shrink test. Be absolutely diligent about this. And if the fabric is very unstable, do check every roll. Yes, really, inconsistency in sizing is the kiss of death. You do not want your customers to return their pants because they are too short, or because they stretch out and don't keep the shape. This where fabric testing comes in. Only large brands cutting thousands of pieces pay for lab testing services, but you can also do your own for the basics, which are listed here. For a deeper dive on this section, sign up for my Tech Packs Masterclass, where I show you how to check your fabrics before you buy them the DIY way. Last but not least, this section is pretty straightforward, so I'll just refresh some of the lingo. MOQ is the abbreviation for minimum order quantity. Sampling yardage is the initial amount you'll purchase to try it out, and cut the samples you'll use for sales and photo shoots. Production order is the larger order for, well, producing the quantity you plan on selling. Always check if the vendor's MOQ is a quantity you can actually afford before you get carried away with excitement ordering sample fabric. Lead time refers to the time it takes for the fabric to be ready to be shipped to you. Choosing the right fabrics is key to your success. At the very least, learn the basics of textiles. Understanding the difference between weaves and yarns will save you some serious headaches from using the wrong fabric. Colorway page. Here's the blank template. Now take a moment to review the completed sample version. Let's begin. Your header with the style info, logo, and thumbnail flat should already be in place by now. Let's start with the main portion of the page. The main goal on this page is to get down to every detail of the final product, for every color you will be offering on your collection. The fabric combinations, including self, contrast, and lining. Don't forget to include the inner construction materials, such as fusible interlining, trims, such as buttons, zippers, hook and eye, etc. Thread colors, including the more invisible type used for sewing the main seams, as well as top stitching and decorative details. Your branding items and packaging materials, and anything else that could be included in the final product sent to the customer that isn't part of the company's standard shipping materials. To fill out the item section, simply copy and paste the information from the bill of materials. On the colorway section, add your design combinations. Here are some tips on merchandising your collection. A way to meet minimum order requirements is to buy PFD or prepared for dyeing and do your own custom colors. As a startup brand, I recommend keeping your color offering to no more than 3 choices, with 2 basics and 1 pop color. If the design is a success, you can add more colors later. When choosing your colors, avoid conflicting styles. Focus on creating a strong selection. The pattern page. Here's the blank template. Now take a moment to review the completed sample version. Let's begin. Your header with the style info, logo, and thumbnail flat should already be in place by now. Let's breeze through the main section. Although it's simple to fill out, it is very important that you do, to avoid any potential mistakes on cutting or grading. First, you'll insert a screenshot of the pattern card. Some pattern makers still do their pattern cards by hand, and that's okay. What matters is their skill on fit, not on the computer. In those cases, I carefully type their hand instructions on my own computer pattern card. If you are wondering why I do this, it's because physical pattern cards can get lost, and handwriting can be hard to read. Typing up the pattern card also gives me the opportunity to check the pattern pieces against the list, ensuring everything matches. And I also double-check that my BOM matches the materials and the consumption. If the pattern maker uses a computer program to make the pattern, you can ask them for a screenshot of what's called the mini marker. This shows the best pattern arrangement for fabric use efficiency. If your pattern maker works by hand, you can get this from whoever is doing the grading and marking. Checking the mini marker ensures that the pattern piece was entered under the correct material, fabric, and print direction. Some fabrics are what's referred to as one-way. This means the pattern piece cannot be cut upside down to save fabric. During the sampling process, ask your contractor for what's called initial consumption and update your pattern card accordingly. This is also so that you can begin estimating how much material you'll need for production. If you'd like to get a free copy of my pattern card template with a step-by-step on how to fill it out, follow the link in the description. Spec sheet, also referred to as measurements page. Here's the blank template. Now take a moment to review the completed sample version. Let's begin. Your header with the style info, logo, and thumbnail flat should already be in place by now. The main portion of the page is one of the most difficult steps for a newbie to fill out, so I highly recommend you hire a freelance tech designer to help. You can also take my Tech Packs Masterclass where I teach you how to properly spec a garment and what to look out for during fittings. For the purpose of this video, I will go over the sections and the lingo to help you navigate the process while you work with your tech designer. We will begin with the points of measure, also referred to as POM. These are all the relevant measurements, taken with the garment laid flat on the table. Your final specs will be the result of these garment flat measurements, cross-checked against the measurements with the garment on the body. The fitting process will be based around checking both and adjusting accordingly on the flat measurement to get the look you are going for. Remember, consistency when measuring the garment across all team members is key to avoid going in circles. There are standards on how to measure the common points of measure, however, some may vary. This is when a visual on how to measure sets the standard for all the team members involved. If you are not familiar with points of measure, you can learn the basics with my How to Measure manual. Not only it provides the visuals, but will also give you a list of the points of measure you can pull from for your spec sheet. Once your points of measure are in place, you can add target specs. These are measurements you are providing the pattern maker as an initial guide. The best way to create your target specs is by using a comparable garment of similar material weight and overall fit. I am not advocating you copy someone else's design exactly. I am simply stating it's a good way to get to a better starting point. Within the target specs, you'll notice a small column labeled tolerance. These numbers tell the factory the amount they can miss the target or requested spec by. The tolerance depends on the measurement and how it affects fit. The smaller the measurement, usually the smaller the tolerance, and vice versa. Tolerances tend to be pretty much industry standards, so let your pattern maker or tech designer fill it out. The last group of columns corresponds to the updates for each fitting. Once again, unless you are confident with your measurements and fit notes, let your tech designer or pattern maker take the lead here. But before we wrap up this page, let's take a moment to go over the standard progression of fittings most companies follow during development. The very first fit sample you'll receive, it's called first prototype. Once the first proto is adjusted, the next sample is your SMS or salesman sample. If you are wholesaling and the style sells enough to proceed to production, you move on to your first fit. After that comes your pre-production fit sample. By this stage, your style should be ready to be cut for production. The last column is the last sample the factory will send, and it's not really for fit purposes, but a last chance for any minor sewing adjustments. This sample is referred to as TOP, or top of production. Fit comments page. Here's the blank template. Now take a moment to review the completed sample version. Please note that the photos do not correspond to the design on the demo, and they are just to show what standard fit comments are like. Let's begin. Your header with the style info, logo, and thumbnail flat should already be in place by now. The large portion of the page is where you'll insert all the photos from the fitting. It is a pretty standard practice to begin with the front, side, and back views first, and adding the detail shots to additional pages. If you're able to add your notes over the images on the first page, as I did on my demo, go ahead and do so. If it starts to look messy, duplicate the photos on a second page and leave the first set clear of visual obstructions. Remember that the factory overseas is not present during your fitting and needs to see the overall fit to understand your adjustment requests. So be sure to take down all the notes during the fitting and related photos. During the fitting, stay focused and provide feedback, but let the tech designer or pattern maker take the lead as they understand how pattern and sewing affects fit. And remember to update your measurements on the spec sheet if you are requesting changes on the fit notes. Be sure to find a great team to work with on fittings. Poor fit can ruin a great design, as it can elevate a simple one. Grading page. Here's the blank template. Now take a moment to review the completed sample version. Let's begin. Your header with the style info, logo, and thumbnail flat should already be in place by now. Now take a closer look at the main portion of the page. Two of the sections I highlighted match exactly the spec sheet. These are the POM and the tolerance columns. So you can simply copy and paste those from the spec sheet once you've approved your fit for production. Next, we need to add our grade rule. All sizes are based on our final production-approved sample size measurements, so we can also copy and paste those numbers from the spec sheet. Selecting your grade rules depends on several factors, such as customer preference, fabric elasticity and recovery, and your production budget. I highly recommend you research your competitors' comparable styles and decide based on a combination of what is out there with what is best for your brand. Once you've done your research, discuss with your grader to ensure all the measurements are appropriate for your design. For example, a loose knit sweater might need a smaller length increment to avoid it getting too long on the larger sizes. Grade rules can get tricky as you'll find letter sizing such as small, medium, large, etc. and a variety of numeric sizing charts that vary depending on the country and type of garment. In the United States, grading increments are usually 1.5 to 2-inch grades, with higher-end garments and jeans using a 1-inch grade. On my website, you'll find a variety of grade rules available on my Grading for Tech Pack set. These are a Bible that I personally use for my clients, and I have created over the years working with major brands. It truly is invaluable info. I recommend researching your competitors and choosing one of the choices on the set as base, and then double-check with your factory or grader to ensure all increments suit your design best. Quality control page. Here's the blank template. Now take a moment to review the completed sample version. Let's begin. Your header with the style info, logo, and thumbnail flat should already be in place by now. Let's go over the main portion of the page, beginning at the top with the callouts boxes. This is where you'll note your main concerns in regards to overall measurements, and any sewing or finishing issues, if present. The next section is where you'll add a few key points of measure, selected from the spec sheet. Choose these based on the most relevant measurements that are a non-negotiable if out of tolerance. For example, on a mini skirt, the length out of tolerance and too short can make it unsaleable. Next, you'll enter the spec for that point of measure, as shown on the final grading chart. And on the columns next to the spec, enter the measurements taken from random units picked from your production order. Then repeat the same process with a few units on other sizes. Remember, this is a simple step that might be time-consuming, but will help you avoid potential headaches later on dealing with returns. Packing instructions page. Here's the blank template. Now take a moment to review the completed sample version. Let's begin. Your header with the style info, logo, and thumbnail flat should already be in place by now. Let's review the main portion of the page. Notice that I am showing the packaging first. On my demo, I have chosen to pack my garments inside a poly bag with self-adhesive strip at the top, and that I'd like the sticker with the barcode to be on the lower right corner. I am also showing how I'd like the jacket folded, and requesting that the hang tag shows over the garment, that the top 3 buttons should be unbuttoned, and not to include any tissue inside. Last but not least, test different packaging options to balance branding, cost, and sustainability. Shipping instructions page. Here's the blank template. Now take a moment to review the completed sample version. Let's begin. Your header with the style info, logo, and thumbnail flat should already be in place by now. Let's breeze through this section, as it is pretty self-explanatory. Here, the main point is not as much about the standard box, but to show exactly how the information outside the box is applied. If shipping wholesale orders, make sure to carefully review and meet their shipping requirements. Failing to do so can cost you a lot of money. Larger retailers, such as Anthropologie and Nordstrom, have entire dedicated manuals with packing and shipping requirements. Putting your sticker on the wrong corner of the box will result in a chargeback. History page. We have made it to the end! Take a moment to pat yourself in the back, my friend. Let's make this last section a super quick one. Here's the blank template. And here's the filled out sample. It is a log of the progress of edits and updates. The reason why you want to track who did what and when, is because development can take months, and numerous changes will be made to the original tech pack. If there is an error on the tech pack at some point, it is easier to find which version of the form is the one where the glitch happened by checking this page. And that's a wrap for this course. Be proud of you for sticking through it and taking on learning the basics to doing tech packs. This is just a snapshot, but you can be confident now navigating the different pages when talking to your vendors. I wish you all the best on your fashion design journey, and when you are ready for a deeper dive into developing your collection, check out my Tech Packs Masterclass. It is not just a deeper dive into tech packs, but full of practical advice in developing your collection and running your fashion brand. The course is split in modules and individual lessons, so that you can easily navigate while you learn and find what you are looking for. Sign up to the pre-sale mailing list to receive a discount code. Thank you for watching, and please like and subscribe. This helps the channel grow and will keep you updated on new tutorials. I will soon be creating sewing and pattern making tutorials, along with continuing to share my Procreate tips to help with your fashion designer journey.